This is Mac OS Ken.
Apple no longer anchors the supply chain, it seems. A laughably small find in New Jersey. And Lisa Jackson's apparently done. It is Monday, the 19th of January, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Clean My Mac. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clny.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. I've been watching and working in tech news since 1998, minus 3 years at the turn of the century. There's a type of story turning up now, though, that I don't remember seeing before. I mean, it's kind of like the stories that happened off and on during the height of the pandemic. Stories of slowdowns and tie-ups in the supply chain, forcing everybody from automakers to Apple to scramble for alternative suppliers and or delay products. Thing is, those were practically acts of God. People getting sick, people fleeing for fear of getting sick, manufacturers reacting poorly in some cases. It was unprecedented. The thing is, this new crop of stories is also unprecedented. A piece from Business Insider shows up under the headline, Apple is losing its grip on the world's tech supply chain. Meanwhile, over at his Culpium site, Tim Culpin says Apple is fighting for TSMC capacity as NVIDIA takes center stage. Of course, we heard a similar story last week, the one that had both Apple and Qualcomm reportedly concerned about the strained supplies of Japan's high-end glass cloth fiber. That's a component in chip substrates and printed circuit boards which power the things made by Apple and Qualcomm. The Business Insider piece has Brad Gastworth, global head of research and market intelligence at Circular Technology, saying that Apple is no longer the gravitational center of the hardware universe. While the company still moves huge volumes and has unmatched brand strength, Gastworth says Apple is no longer the anchor client for fabs, substrate makers, or key component suppliers. That is a fundamental change. Where this change is most stark, according to Business Insider, is with TSMC. The report says the chip maker's preliminary results last week made it very clear that its smartphone business is no longer its most important segment. Culpium thinks Apple is probably not TSMC's biggest customer these days. That title likely belongs to NVIDIA. Though TSMC has not confirmed that, Culpium's back-of-the-envelope math shows modest growth for Apple hardware revenue of 3.6% in 2025, tremendous growth for TSMC of 36%, and phenomenal growth for NVIDIA of 62%. Kind of looks like NVIDIA is buttering more of TSMC's bread than Apple is right now. It's not anything Apple did or didn't do. It's more a shifting tides thing, with smartphone demand plateauing, according to Culpium, while demand for AI processors at the data center and cloud level rockets up. There are a couple of things to keep Apple worth listening to for TSMC, even if the chip maker doesn't have to jump when Apple says. The first, Apple buys a lot of types of chips, everything from high-power computer processors for Mac to lower-end chips for consumer electronic devices. The other thing Apple offers, according to Culpium, stability. The way the Post sees it, NVIDIA has been a client for a lot longer than Apple, but broadly speaking, it's a bit niche. Right now, that niche is the hottest product on the planet, but niche it is. Apple, on the other hand, has products being made in no fewer than a dozen TSMC fabs. Even if NVIDIA did overtake Apple by purchases, the breadth of its manufacturing footprint at TSMC is nowhere near as large. And eventually, the piece figures, growth for AI processors will subside. That may be a bursting bubble, maybe a slow deflation. Whichever it is, the growth trajectory will surely flatten, says Culpium, and that means demand for leading-edge AI chips will fall. Okay, I dig the site's forward thinking. That said, I find myself wondering what I'd imagine a lot of consumers and Wall Street types will be wondering as well. What does this mean for the price of Apple hardware? I mean, with the exception of Chinese OEMs maybe, who can stay where they are or get ahead? You probably don't need to worry about Samsung suddenly eating Apple's lunch. They'll be in the same position as Apple, and Apple is better positioned. It's like the note we talked about last week from IDC. That firm pointed to the rising price of NAND and DRAM as a concern for device makers, which is part of the same AI-fueled supply chain crunch. According to IDC research manager Jitesh Abrani, memory shortages are affecting the entire industry and the impact will likely reshape market dynamics over the next 2 years. While big players are well positioned to leverage their scale and memory allocations, smaller players may not survive. So, iPhones cost more to make, which could prompt Apple to raise iPhone prices. At the same time, lower-tier smartphones could go away, leaving fewer choices for consumers, which could prompt Apple to raise iPhone prices. Not saying that would happen, saying it could. Rising costs could offer Apple cover. Due to the rising cost of manufacturing, we're raising the cost of iPhone even though we have a margin on the thing of 40-something%. Times are tight. You know how it is. Seems like now would be a great time to keep iPhone prices exactly where they are. Let people who want to pay a ton of money pay a ton of money for the foldable iPhone everyone's expecting later this year. Use that to jack your overall ASPs and margins. If Apple's margin falls to 30-something% or even 20-something%, they're still doing better than most businesses out there. And the iPhone begins to look like a value without looking cheap. Or they might just raise the prices, who knows? One might well expect analysts to ask about such things on next week's earnings call. One might also expect Apple execs to avoid answering those questions directly. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Clean My Mac, your solution for care and control of your Mac. Our Macs get loaded with a lot of files, a lot of installation remnants. Happens slowly, and as much as we might want to keep on top of it, we get busy. And besides, applications hide bits and pieces we don't even know they're hiding in places we don't know how to find. Clean My Mac knows where and how to find them. It starts by cleaning your Mac, getting rid of unneeded system files, hidden clutter, broken downloads, and other junk. But Clean My Mac does more than just clean. It's a suite of tools meant to optimize performance, scan for threats and vulnerabilities, update the apps you use, and ditch the apps you don't. Clean My Mac gives you a clear view of what's happening on your Mac, what's taking up space, and tips to make it run better. See what it finds on your Mac with a free trial. Get tidy today. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. Make macOSKen all caps in both cases. That way they know where you heard about it and you get that discount. Clean My Mac's been cleaning Macs for nearly 20 years. Let them clean yours. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. Again, MacOSKen is all caps both places. Use code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. If you're thinking of trying the apps in the Apple Creator Studio bundle, you'll have less time than you used to. Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro used to have 90-day free trials. Now a piece from Cult of Mac says Apple's knocked those down to a 30-day free trial for the whole kit and caboodle. Seems there's no trial of any of the titles for the next few days. The Cult says the 90-day free trials are gone. Apple Creator Studio subscriptions don't go live until the 28th of January, which is apparently when the 1-month free trials will begin. If you want to try the apps out at no cost, you can spend the next 9 days either dreaming of what you'll make when you have the 30 days or kicking yourself for having missed the free 90. An interesting and odd requirement of Apple in New Jersey, one the Cupertino company may also find gauche. 9to5Mac says Apple and New Jersey consumer protection officials have settled a state investigation that found repeated pricing and refund policy violations in Apple stores. Back in 2017, the Garden State's Division of Consumer Affairs required Apple to install continuously available pricing information for iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, Apple Watches, and other electronic devices to be displayed on tables in stores throughout the state. People could see prices for devices through Apple's in-store digital pricing systems. The thing is, that required those people to actually interact with the things, a requirement that regulators said violated state consumer protection laws. Poking around 11 Apple stores several years later, New Jersey regulators found the tags on tables were not there. And so, Apple's getting fined and being told to clean up its act, by which I mean clutter up its tables. In a press release, New Jersey Attorney General Matthew J. Platkin was quoted as saying, "At a time when prices are skyrocketing, consumers deserve to know what they're paying for products on the shelves. Once again, Apple has violated the law by failing to display the prices for products in their retail stores, keeping consumers in the dark. It's bad enough when companies violate the law once. It's even worse when they are held accountable for violating consumers' rights and then engage in the same unlawful conduct again. There is no excuse for Apple's repeated misconduct here, and consumers deserve better. We'll stand up for them every time." The piece indicates that the fine is the largest ever leveled by New Jersey's Division of Consumer Affairs under the Merchandise Pricing Act. The fine, $150,000, an amount Apple will have made from the time I started this sentence until right now. You may want to be more on guard when shopping the App Store on iOS 26.3. 9to5Mac says some people using the latest betas have noted a change in the way sponsored search results are presented. The piece has the people indicating that the blue background around sponsored results is no longer shown, blurring the line between what paid ad results look like and the real search results that follow. While sponsored results still have the small ad banner next to the app icon, it's small. With no blue background, 9to5Mac says the removal has the effect of making it harder for users to quickly distinguish at a glance what is an ad and what isn't, potentially misleading some users into not realizing that the first result is a paid ad placement. So that's the way it's going to be, huh? Maybe not. The piece did say only some users don't have the blues. The 26.3 App Store for iOS appears to be in some kind of A/B test phase, according to 9to5Mac. And finally today, it is the end of an era for Apple. Mac Rumors says Apple on Friday pulled Lisa Jackson, the company's VP of Environment, Policy, and Social Initiatives, off of its leadership page. Apple announced early last month that Jackson would be retiring sometime this month. It seems to have come to pass. The Environment and Social Initiatives part of her job now rests with Apple Chief Operating Officer Sabi Khan. The government affairs portion transfers to Apple Legal, currently headed by Kate Adams, soon to be handled by Jennifer Newstead, formerly of Facebook parent Meta, among other public and private sector gigs. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Clean My Mac. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, MacOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.